Dehradun is home to Rimcollians, the alumni of Rashtriya Indian Military College. Founded on 13th March 1922, this school has provided leaders par excellence in the past 100 years of its existence. It has given Indians the pride of being world leaders in matters military. Its founder, Prince of Wales, later King Edward VIII, had said, "It is the first few blows on the anvil of the life that give the human weapon the set and temper that carry him through life's battles." As the college moves towards celebrating a centenary of worthy existence, let's recall its contribution to nation and society, especially in the field of military leadership. World War II redefined the world we live in. Indians fought with distinction in Europe and North Africa against Germany and Italy, as well as in Southeast Asia against the Japanese, albeit under the British flag. Indian soldiers were instrumental in liberating British colonies such as Singapore and Hong Kong after surrender of Japanese in August 1945. Over 87,000 Indian soldiers, including those from present-day Pakistan and Bangladesh, died in World War II. Field Marshal Sir Claude Affleck, Commander-in-Chief of the Indian Army from 1942, asserted the British couldn't have come through both wars, that is World War I and II, if they hadn't had the Indian Army. Acknowledging their leadership skills after World War I, British set up Prince of Wales Royal Indian Military College, later RIMC, in 1922 to prepare Indians for a career in the British forces as commissioned officers. When World War II broke out, Rimcollians were deployed across the globe as officers and commanders. Many of them were decorated and honored for exemplary leadership and courage in the face of the enemy assault. These included Victoria Cross P.S. Bhagat, Distinguished Service Order K.S. Thimmaiya, T. Mahadev Singh, V.D. Jayal, and Taj Muhammad Khanzada. Distinguished Flying Cross K.N. Kak and N.K. Shitole. Military Cross K.S. Katoch, N.K.D. Nanavati, K. Zorawar Singh, R.S. Kriwal, M.G. Rajwade, Vishal Muhammad Khan, Mohammad Siddiqui, Ranbir Singh, K. Surendra Singh, N.L. Kapoor, Taj Muhammad Khanzada, Rizaul Karam Khan, and Muhammad Aslam. These awards were won in different battles in diverse theatres. A quick flip would show the achievements of the Rimcollian leadership across the globe. Let's start with Africa. Battle of Metemma, Abyssinia. In the African continent, the fiercest of battles of World War II were fought. From 31st January to 3rd February 1941, a column of 3x12 Royal Frontier Force rifles, including a detachment of 21 Field Company under 2nd Lieutenant P.S. Bhagat, was sent towards Metemma in Abyssinia, now Ethiopia. Bhagat's Bren carrier passed through a heavily mined road and detonated 2 mines, the second of which destroyed the carrier, killing the driver and the sapper. Bhagat continued in another carrier, defusing mines by hand. Despite close enemy fire, without food or rest for 4 days, Bhagat cleared 15 minefields over a distance of 55 miles. After having another Bren carrier blow up under him on 2nd February, which resulted in punctured eardrums, he was evacuated. Bhagat was decorated with the Victoria Cross, the highest gallantry award of the pre-independence era. Japanese surrender. It was not only at subaltern level that the Rimcollians were excelling, but also doing wonders while discharging commander's responsibility. Kundandera Subbiya Thimmaiya was in 1944 posted to his old regiment as commanding officer of 8 by 19th Hyderabad, later 4th Kumaon, which he led with outstanding success during the Burma campaign. Thimmaiya was promoted to the acting rank of brigadier in the field in 1945 and for his outstanding service in battle awarded the much coveted Distinguished Service Order and also a mention in dispatches. Timmy, as General Thimmaiya was lovingly called across the rank and file, represented the country during the surrender of Japanese in Singapore, followed by the surrender of Japanese in the Philippines. At the ceremony of Japanese surrender in Singapore, he signed on behalf of India. He was awarded the keys to Manila when he was sent to Philippines to accept surrender of the Japanese. Precursor for UN. Fighting as part of the Allied formations in Europe, the Indian Army, under leadership of Rimcollian commanders, were winning respect for both their courage and tact. During the last phases of World War II, Lieutenant Colonel Thakur Mahadev Singh received his Distinguished Service Order in the Italian campaign in the battle for the Indus River. His battalion, the 1st Punjab Regiment, lost 35 men in this war in South Italy. The Indian soldiers fought against the Germans right from the first assault on the Gothic Line in August 1944 to the last assault on the Senio River in April 1945. His battalion fought shoulder to shoulder with soldiers from other nationalities as part of the Allied forces, which in a way became precursor for the United Nations. Just before independence, Colonel T. Mahadev Singh was appointed the commandant of the Indian Military Academy, Dehradun, the first Indian to hold the post. Battle of Keren. If Bhagat was in Abyssinia, Thimmaiya in Southeast Asia, Mahadev Singh in Italy, Brigadier Vidyadhar Jayal won his DSO in World War II in the East African Campaign. A major at that time with the 6th Battalion of 13th Frontier Force Rifles, he displayed sheer courage and grit during the Battle of Keren against the Italians. A tough battle fought from 5th February 1941 to 1st April 1941 between a mixed Italian army of regular and colonial troops and the attacking British and Free French forces. The town of Keren in the colony of Italian Eritrea was of strategic importance to both the Italian and the British forces. The capture of Castle Hill by Jayal's company won the battle for the battalion, on which the brigade commander said, "How they reached their objectives is beyond my comprehension." Battle of El Alamein. Battle of El Alamein in Egypt, which came to gain a cult status courtesy in Giorgio Ferroni's 1969 film, did have a Field Marshal Rommel on the German side, but also a Rimcollian, winning the Military Cross for his valour from the British side. Brigadier Nandlal Kapoor was commissioned in 1941 into the 4th Battalion of 6th Rajputana Rifles, then serving with the 10th Indian Division at Mirza Matru in the Western Desert. The Axis Army was led by Field Marshal Erwin Rommel and the Allied troops by General Claude Affleck. In mid-July 1942, the 5th Indian Brigade was in front line near Ruwaisat Ridge. On 17 July, Lieutenant Nandlal Kapoor commanded an extremely hazardous operation with this company facing fire from German tanks. Ordering men to lie down, Kapoor kept walking in front of them, causing the commander of the tanks to suspect a trap. The situation remained unchanged until dark, when Lieutenant Kapoor withdrew his company. His courage and tact earned him the Military Cross. More on Italian campaign. Allied forces Italian campaign had several heroes. On receiving commission, Major General K. Zorawar Singh joined Central India House. During the Italian campaign, CIH was a reconnaissance unit for the 4th Indian Division. Singh was made second in command of B Squadron. On 3rd August 1944, Singh led a reconnaissance patrol towards Casalia Vecchia, which is northwest of Arezzo. The objective was to determine the location of German front line and eliminate any Germans encountered. During the patrol, a German reconnaissance force was encountered. The result of this engagement left 2 enemy dead and 3 others taken prisoner. Singh was awarded the Military Cross for leadership during the operation. In October 1944, the CIH was sent to Greece to stabilize the country following the withdrawal of German forces. Destroying Winter Line. Then there was the Battle of Monte Cassino, also known as the Battle for Rome, which was a costly series of 4 assaults by the Allies against the Winter Line in Italy, held by Axis forces during the Italian campaign of World War II. The intention was to break through to Rome. In this battle, Dogra Company of 6th Battalion Frontier Force Rifles, commanded by Kashmir K, played a pivotal role in achieving victory, clearing many of the machine gun nests. Katoch was awarded the Military Cross. Post-independence, Katoch worked in many important appointments before retiring as the Vice Chief of the Indian Army. He was also awarded Padma Bhushan. More on Battle of Monte Cassino. Another Rimcollian won Military Cross at Monte Cassino. Major General Nalin Kumar Dheeraj Lal Nanavati was a major with the 5th Royal Maratha Light Infantry when the forces were ordered to go and fight in World War II. The battalion initially served in the Middle East before becoming a machine gun battalion in Italy. The 4th Indian Division was tasked to capture Monte Cassino. The division lost about 4,000 men on the approaches to Cassino before the objective was finally captured and won many medals for gallantry. Nanavati won a Military Cross and mentioned in dispatches for his bravery. He later became Commandant of the Indian Military Academy. Unfortunately, Nanavati died while commanding an infantry division in J&K in 1963 in a helicopter crash with several other members of the top brass. Battle of Imphal. Just not in the faraway lands, but closer home too, Rimcollians were leading with unprecedented tact and bravery. It was not the Rimcollian leaders in army alone who were excelling, but also brave pilots of the Royal Indian Air Force who were shining bright. The battle for Imphal, that raged from March to July 1944, was essentially a siege operation by the Japanese against the Allied forces concentrating in the Imphal Valley. Flying Hurricanes, the number 1 squadron of the RIAF, flew nearly 2,000 sorties during the battle for Imphal. By the time the squadron earned its turn for rest, it had earned 9 distinguished Flying Cross and 1 member of British Empire, the most that any of the 9 squadrons in the IAF had achieved till then. The first of the DFCs went to squadron leader Arjun Singh, who later became Marshal of the Indian Air Force. Among other decorated was young Rimcollian flying officer Khemendranath Kak, who lost his life during one of the operations. Tigers in Imphal. The Royal Indian Air Force operations in Imphal saw another Rimcollian excelling. Air Commodore Narayan Rao Khande Rao Nanu Shitole got his posting to No. 1 Tiger Squadron at Imphal in the summer of 1944. The squadron spent close to 14 months of Inter-Air Staff Officer, Southwestern Air Command, Jodhpur. Crossing River Shweli Barrier. After the heaviest air and land bombardment in Burma, British and Indian troops of the 36th Division forced a crossing in assault craft over the Shweli River to Midson. The Shweli was the last river barrier to the 36th Division's advance into central Burma, and the Japanese opposed the ferry crossing fervently. The main Japanese attack against the 36th Division was made on February 1, 1945 on Shweli River. The 58th Field Company of Madras Engineering Group ferried infantrymen, arms and equipment across the river in inflatable Ranger boats. The first wave set out at midday, and with it went Lieutenant M.G. Rajwade. The boats came under heavy enemy fire. An attempt to recall them was unsuccessful. The crossing continued until half of the infantry battalion committed. There was heavy loss of men and boats. Meanwhile, those of the infantry who had succeeded in landing were engaged in a hand-to-hand fight with the Japanese in Midson village. Lieutenant Rajwade remained all the day, and during the following night, in a small bridgehead, collected the survivors of 58th Field Company and arranged their return. Majority of the boats, however, had been lost in enemy fire. A few boats which had not been damaged were deployed. He was awarded the Military Cross, the first Indian sapper to be so honored. Several of his men received military medals. Indian National Army. Not to forget that World War II also hastened the process of Indian independence. In 1943, Subhash Chandra Bose arrived in Tokyo, and after a prolonged discussion, Japan declared Indian National Army under Bose to be the army of Arzi Hukumat-e-Azad Hind, that is, Government of Independent India in exile. Brigadier N.S. Tony Bhagat, Rimcollian, and First Coast Indian Military Academy, who joined INA, writes that a large number of officers, including Rimcollians, joined ranks with Netaji after it was clear that the sole aim of INA was to make British quit India. In addition to Tony Bhagat, several other Rimcollians, including Shehnawaz Khan, Jagannath Rao Bhosle, Niranjan Singh Gill, Taj Muhammad Khanzada, and Inayatullah Hassan, played an important role in the movement. The 1st Guerrilla Brigade of the INA was under the command of General Shehnawaz Khan INA. By the beginning of January 1944, it had reached Rangoon, where 2 battalions remained to guard the border between Burma and India near Hakka, while the 3rd advanced into India and took part in the battles of Imphal and Kohima. Later, the INA trials at Red Fort made Shehnawaz a legend. Kashmir conflict, 1947-49. Soon after independence, the Rimcollian prowess went on test in helping the national leadership in consolidating a nascent nation. What India holds today in Jammu and Kashmir is thanks to military achievements. What we don't hold in Jammu and Kashmir is due to failure of diplomacy and lack of sanction to further military operations. J&K conflict of 1947-48 was a tribute to the officers of the Indian military who had never commanded large-scale troops in action under the British, as most of them were up to the rank of majors and lieutenant colonels. During the Kashmir conflict, they not only handled 50 battalions, dismantled and reassembled tanks, marched hundreds of kilometers on hilly terrain, and also sorted out the logistics nightmare from an ill-prepared position. It spoke very highly of their professional competence and military training. The Indian Air Force added teeth to the army operations. And Rimcollians were there everywhere, from planning accession of the princely state to saving Srinagar, recapturing Rajouri, opening up Zojila and defending Leh. They had to be there, as they were trained to lead in most adverse situations. Accession of Kashmir. In September 1947, Maharaja Hari Singh of Jammu and Kashmir requested Government of India for an officer to head state forces. Colonel Kashmir Singh Katoch was chosen for the job. Colonel Kashmir Singh Katoch was son of Major General Janak Singh, the officiating Prime Minister of J&K at the time of accession of the state to India. Kashmir Singh was commissioned in Frontier Force Rifles and had won a military cross during the World War II. On being given the offer, Colonel Katoch advised Maharaja to appoint much senior officer Brigadier Rajinder Singh as Chief of Staff. Katoch was appointed military advisor to Maharaja. Brigadier Rajinder Singh was killed in action within the first few days of the Pakistani invasion. Following the accession on 26-27 October 1947, the state forces came under the Indian Army with Colonel Katoch as the commanding officer. He was decorated with Padma Bhushan for service in Kashmir. Battle of Budgam. On November 3, 1947, soon after Maharaja Hari Singh of Jammu and Kashmir signed instrument of accession to India, landed Major Somnath Sharma in Srinagar with D Company of 4th Kumaon under his command to defend the airport from tribal marauders. He defended Budgam and secured the airport by making supreme sacrifice and embracing martyrdom. Completely outnumbered in an unequal battle, his last words to his headquarters were, "The enemy is only 50 yards from us. I shall not withdraw an inch, but will fight to the last round." Battle of Budgam proved to be the turning point in hastening the process of integrating J&K to India. Securing Kashmir. The process of integration of Kashmir is replete with great acts of valor and tact by the Rimcollian commanders. Major General K.S. Thimmaiya became commander of the 19th Infantry Division in Jammu and Kashmir in 1948, where he drove the raiders and Pakistani army out of the valley. He succeeded in driving out the entrenched raiders and Pakistani army regulars and in the eventual capture of Dras, Kargi and Leh. Despite best of relations with Kashmiri leaders Sheikh Abdullah and Bakshi Ghulam Muhammad and Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, Thimmaiya's pleas to give him 3 more months to drive the raiders back to Muzaffarabad fell on deaf ears, as the political leadership opted for a United Nations sponsored ceasefire. He was awarded Padma Bhushan for his service in J&K. Battle of Zojila. Zojila was vital, hence General Thimmaiya planned to clear it at the earliest. 77 Para Brigade, commanded by another Rimcollian, Brigadier Kanhaiya Lal Atal, had attempted twice to capture the pass, but both the attacks had failed. Thereafter, General Thimmaiya made an unthinkable plan. He decided to use tanks. By then, nowhere in the world tanks had operated at such heights ever. Charlie Squadron of 7 Cavalry, commanded by Captain S.D.S. Jambal, got the distinction of taking tanks across Zojila first time at such height. It was no matter of coincidence that Captain Jambal too was from the RIMC. It was to his credit to move his squadron to the valley secretly by dismantling tanks and carrying the turrets in civil trucks unnoticed. As ordered, Charlie Squadron started advance. It fought its way through the Pakistanis entrenched en route. Appearance of roaring tanks came as a bolt from the blue for Pakistanis. By 3 p.m. on 1st November 1948, Gumri was under Charlie Squadron control. He messaged his regiment headquarters. "Hello Victor 15, Gumri captured, enemy on the run, over." Soon after that, General Thimmaya arrived at Gumri without escort. General was the first senior officer to reach the battleground after Gumri had been captured. Seeing him, Captain Jambal jumped off his tank to receive the GOC, but General shouted, telling him not to salute because they were under enemy observation. It was a Rimcollian captain and a Rimcollian general who gave Zojila to the Indian Army. Credit to the RIMC, which makes officers daredevils. Captain Jambal requested GOC to get back before it gets dark. Complimenting Captain Jambal, GOC returned. Later, Lieutenant General K.M. Kariyappa, the army commander, reached Gumri to compliment Captain Jambal. The 77 Parachute Brigade under Kanhaiya Lal Atal, which was cooling its heel till the tanks arrived at Zojila, now went for a kill, recapturing Kargil. Brigadier Atal, following consultation with General Thimmaya, pushed his tactical HQ with the leading battalion well forward when they were held up at Pindras. A detailed planning, preparation, and execution of the entire operations were carried out under intense wintry conditions, with great determination, consummate skill, and boldness. Seeing the leading battalion being held up 4 miles short of Kargil, Atal personally led 2 companies over a difficult mountainous track at great personal risk, which took him to the rear of the enemy and ultimately into Kargil. Saving Ladakh. Today, Ladakh stands as a separate union territory. The nation should forever remain indebted to Rimcollians for saving this mountainous region for the posterity. One company of 2x8 Gorkha rifles under the commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel H.S. Parab, was airlifted from Srinagar to Leh on 23rd August 1948. The remaining part of the battalion moved from Firozpur on foot, crossing the Rohtang Pass, reaching Leh on 18th September. Before airlift, Timmy appointed Colonel Parab the military governor of Ladakh. His orders from General Thimmaya were, "You will defend Leh at all cost." Parab assumed command of all troops in Ladakh and set about pushing the raiders back. Meanwhile, Zojila was captured on 1st November and Kargil on 23rd November. Colonel Parab's troop advancing from Leh linked up with those advancing from Zojila, led by Brigadier K.L. Atal on 24th November. The ceasefire followed on 1 January 1941. Ladakh had been saved. So impressed was Colonel H.S. Parab with his boss, General K.S. Thimmaya, that he sent his son Dilip to RIMC where Timmy had studied. Colonel D.H. Parab later commanded RIMC. Over the years, several Rimcollians came to command the brave 2x8 Gorkhas. Recapture of Rajouri. Coming to the Jammu region, where intense battles were being fought, the Rimcollians in leadership roles were once again coming out with flying colors. It was on Baisakhi, 13th April 1948, that the Indian Army recaptured Rajouri town from Pakistan. After a grueling 6-hour drive covering some 14 miles, in which the tanks of Central Indian horses crossed Tavi River no less than 8 times. The task force reached Rajouri at 5:30 p.m. Immediately, intense and accurate fire was unleashed. The element of surprise created bewilderment in enemy ranks. The sudden arrival of an armored force caused dismay. The Pakistanis quit. The 27-year-old commandant of the CIH, Lieutenant Colonel Zorawar Singh, had by his brilliant command of armor and his daring use of the Tavi River as his axis of advance, conducted one of the most outstanding light tank exploits of all time. In chronicling our illustrious history in the post-independence period, the wars of 1965 and 1971 emerged as major milestones. The victory in the two wars gave the young realm a firm footing in the comity of nations. If the two wars were crucial in establishing India's prowess, Rimcollians during the two conflicts conducted themselves with great glory at various levels of leadership. Operation Riddle. On 6th September 1965, Major Girish Chandra Verma of 3 Dogra was leading his company in an attack on a very strongly defended enemy post in the Poonch sector. He led the assault in the face of heavy enemy fire at the head of his troops. After a fierce exchange of fire and hand grenades, the enemy was driven from the forwardmost trenches and bunkers. In the subsequent hand-to-hand fight on the very edge of the objective, Major Verma was wounded in the head, but he refused to be evacuated. He breathed his last only after seeing the success signal being fired from his pistol by Subedar Ratan Singh. A medal has been instituted in the Rashtriya India Military College to commemorate the service and martyrdom of Major Verma. Counterfire, Lahore sector. The famous air battle between India and Pakistan during the 1965 war lessened in intensity after 7th September, with both air forces changing their doctrine from counter-air operations to ground attack and concentrated their efforts on knocking out soft-skinned targets and supply lines. On 8 September 1965, Major Jitendra Kumar was in command of a company of 15 Dogra in Lahore sector when his company position was attacked by an enemy aircraft. With complete disregard for his personal safety, Major Jitendra Kumar took up a light machine gun and kept firing at one of the enemy sabre jets, flying low till he shot it down. Major Jitendra Kumar displayed exemplary courage in this encounter. Battle of Thati Jaimal Singh. Major Muhammad Ahmad Zaki was in command of the leading assaulting company of 19 Maratha Light Infantry near Thati Jaimal Singh in Lahore sector. On 20th September 1965, his company came under heavy fire and he was injured in the shoulder and arm by a medium machine gun burst. Still, he led a determined assault on the enemy. He was wounded again. Undaunted by his successive injuries, he drove home the assault in what was virtually hand-to-hand fighting. With a hand grenade, he himself destroyed an enemy bunker containing a medium machine gun. He fell exhausted due to profuse bleeding, but inspired his company to capture the objective. Major Zaki later went on to attain high positions in service and in civil life after retirement. Air Battle Khemkaran. In 1965, Flight Lieutenant Vinod Patne was serving in a fighter squadron and he flew 16 operational sorties within the short period. On 13th September 1965, he took part in a ground attack mission in the Kashmir K current sector and flew as number 3 in a 4-aircraft formation. During the attack, the formation met with heavy and determined ground fire from the enemy guns. One of our aircraft was shot down. Undeterred and undaunted by this, Flight Lieutenant Patne pressed home 5 effective attacks on enemy targets and destroyed 3 patent tanks. The courage and initiative displayed by Flight Lieutenant Vinod Patne were in the best traditions of the Indian Air Force. Battle of Dogra. On 17th September 1965, 2nd Lieutenant Ravinder Singh Bedi of Sindh Horse was ordered to move with his tank troop through the built-up area of village Chogia in the Lahore sector in Pakistan and engage enemy bunkers, recoilless guns and tanks in Dogra. His troop was able to destroy a number of enemy vehicles from a position west of Chogia, which was within the enemy fire range. Though his tank was hit by fire from a recoilless gun and he was seriously wounded, 2nd Lieutenant Bedi continued to lead his tank troop and ultimately succeeded in knocking out the enemy's recoilless gun. He did not abandon his tank until it was on fire and the ammunition started exploding. The Battle of Dogra remains the bloodiest of battles fought by the Indian Army. 2nd Lieutenant Ravinder Singh Bedi was awarded Veer Chakra for his acts of valor during the battle. Desert Sector 1971. In July 1969, Lieutenant General Gopal Gurunath Bevur assumed the appointment of General Officer Commanding-in-Chief, Southern Command. During the Indo-Pakistan War of 1971, the Indian military strategy was mainly defensive in the Western Front while attacking in the Eastern Sector, culminating in the surrender of Dhaka and the secession of East Pakistan into the newly formed Bangladesh. Bevur's Southern Command was tasked with maintaining a secure front from Bikaner southwestwards to the Arabian Sea. For his command of operations in the Rajasthan sector, Bevur was awarded the Padma Bhushan, India's 3rd highest civilian honor. He, later as Chief of Army Staff, ensured and witnessed safe explosion of India's first nuclear device at Pokhran in 1974. Western Front 1971. Lieutenant General Kunhi Raman Palatkande, during the India-Pakistan War of 1971 that led to East Pakistan breaking away to become Bangladesh, was the Western Army commander responsible for planning and overseeing operations in the strategically crucial regions of Jammu and Kashmir and Punjab, where the fiercest fighting took place. General Kande, through his military career, forever remained in operations. In 1961, he played a commanding role in liberation of Goa, Daman and Diu from Portuguese control, and was its military governor till 1963. He later served as the Deputy Chief of Army Staff based at General Headquarters in New Delhi in the midst of the Second War with Pakistan in 1965, and later gallantly commanded the Western Command in 1971. Eastern Sector 1971. Major Chandrakant was in command of a company of 4 guards, tasked to put a post behind an enemy position in the Eastern Sector during the 1971 war. Under his able leadership, the company established it before the enemy could withdraw. The enemy, finding its route of withdrawal cut, reacted violently and launched intense shelling and assaults by tanks. Undeterred, Major Chandrakant went from trench to trench, encouraging his men to hold on to the position till the area was cleared of the enemy. Many years later, Daily Star, Bangladesh's leading newspaper, acknowledged his role in an article titled, "Thank you for being our friend in need." After hanging his spurs, Major Chandrakant has taken to recording military history. Battle of Kumarkhali, 1971. Major Amlan Pratap Datta was commanding a company of 2x9 Gorkha rifles, which launched an attack in an area in the eastern sector. During the advance, 2 of his platoons were channelized to the right flank. Due to heavy enemy fire, radio contact was lost. He, however, moved forward with his company headquarters and the 3rd platoon. When the advance of the company was losing its momentum due to enemy small arms fire, Major Amlan Pratap Datta, in true Gorkhali tradition, charged the enemy position. This encouraged the men under his command and they charged with renewed vigor. This action forced the enemy to run away and facilitated the entry of the Indian troops in strategically important Kushtia district. Siege of Khulna. During the operations against Pakistan in December 1971, Lieutenant Commander Jayanta Kumar Roy Chaudhary was the commanding officer of an Indian naval ship. He was given the task of attacking enemy-held ports in Bangladesh. Despite the shore defenses and the danger from enemy aircraft, he carried out his mission with extreme devotion to duty and by his action disrupted all sea traffic in the port of Mongla. On 10 December, his ship was part of the force which attacked Khulna, a river port at the edge of Sundarban deltas, the home to Royal Bengal tigers. His ship came under very heavy enemy air and shore gun attacks, and he was wounded, but he continued his offensive, which finally resulted in the capture of Khulna port. Supreme sacrifice at Arabian Sea. During the 1971 war, on December 9, a torpedo launched by a Pakistani submarine sank INS Kukri, which was carrying out a submarine hunt. Lieutenant Commander Rajat Kumar Sen was supply officer of the ship. On realizing the danger to his men, Lieutenant Commander Sen went below to get his sailors to safety. In the meantime, the ship was hit by another torpedo. Despite the fact the chances of his survival were minimal as the ship was sinking, he continued to help his men to safety and in doing so made the supreme sacrifice. Throughout, Lieutenant Commander Sen displayed courage and devotion to duty of a higher order. A medal has been instituted at the school in his memory. Dominating sea. During the operations against Pakistan in December 1971, Commander Rajendra Singh Griwal was the commander in charge of all flying operations from INS Vikrant, the only aircraft carrier of the Indian Navy. The surface winds in Bay of Bengal during these operations were such that it made the takeoff and landing from the aircraft very difficult. Commander Griwal, however, continued to fly fighter bombers and anti-submarine aircraft from this ship regularly. It was largely due to his efforts that the 2 aircrafts damaged by the enemy fire were recovered despite extremely hazardous wind conditions. Throughout, Commander Griwal displayed gallantry, leadership and professional skills of a high order. Safeguarding victory. Victoria Cross winner during World War II as a lieutenant, Premendra Singh Bhagat was promoted to the rank of Lieutenant General on 19 May 1967 and subsequently took over as the General Officer Commanding-in-Chief of the Central Command on 4th August 1970 and headed the Central Army during the 1971 war. In June 1972, he became the first GOC in C of the re-established Northern Command in Udhampur, Jammu and Kashmir. Post-war, he played a vital role in safekeeping of Pakistani officers and soldiers taken as POWs, which helped in negotiating the release of Bangla Bandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the founder of Bangladesh. He later helped in redefining the line of control with Pakistan. Since the Bangladesh War in 1971, there has been several instances where the bravery and wisdom, that is Bal or Vivek, of the Rimcollians have been put successfully to test. Every big operation witnessed by this nation, be it a military or a rescue expedition, had a Rimcollian providing exemplary leadership. What we recount here are just a few of them. Wongdong Standoff, 1987. General Vishwanath Sharma took over as GOC in C of the Eastern Command on 1st June 1987 and remained in the office till May 1988 before moving to New Delhi as Chief of Army Staff. During his tenure in the East, China moved troops to Wongdong, a pasture south of Sumdurong Chu Valley, bordering the Tawang district of Arunachal Pradesh, which lies in the Indian territory. The Indian troops stood ground on neighboring Longrola Ridge. Both sides moved a large number of troops to the border. Despite pressure, both international and political, army held its ground and saved Tawang from being taken over by China. General Sharma's leadership in the East got Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi an invitation from top Chinese leader Deng Xiaoping to discuss border issues. General Sharma's elder brother was Major Somnath Sharma, who met martyrdom in 1947 in J&K, winning the first Paramveer Chakra. Operation Pawan, Sri Lanka, 1987. Lieutenant Colonel, later Brigadier Manoranjan Singh, as part of the Indian peacekeeping force in Sri Lanka, was tasked to capture Kopine North, a citadel of militants, on 13th October 1987. His battalion made repeated attempts to capture this strongly held fortified militants' position, but met with strong resistance. Undaunted by the odds against him, Lieutenant Colonel Singh personally led the attack by his battalion on 18th October 1987, and after a prolonged and bloody encounter, captured the prestigious stronghold. The battalion also captured intact a factory of the militants for making explosive devices and seized 1,000 kilograms of explosives. Throughout this operation, Lieutenant Colonel Manoranjan Singh displayed conspicuous bravery and qualities of aggressive leadership. Operation Cactus, Maldives, 1988. In 1988, a group of Maldivians, led by businessman Abdullah Lufti and assisted by armed mercenaries of a secessionist organization from Sri Lanka, tried to overthrow the government in the island republic of Maldives. The coup d'etat failed after the Indian Special Forces eliminated the rebels under an operation codenamed Cactus. Number 44 Squadron of IAF was tasked to airlift 6 para-battalion and 17 para-field artillery from Agra to Hulhule, Maldives. There was a lingering uncertainty about the security of the runway at Hulhule. Group Captain A.G. Bivur flew the first IL-76 into Mail, with para-commandos on board, flying a record 3,500 kilometers and land blind on an unknown runway at night, without normal runway lights and without any support from friendly forces on ground, except the code word from Air Traffic Control, Hoodia. This, along with other acts, earned him the Vayu Sena Medal. Operation Vijay, Kargil 1999. There were three major phases to the Kargil War of 1999. First, Pakistan infiltrated forces into Jammu and Kashmir and occupied strategic locations, enabling it to bring National Highway 1 within range of its artillery fire. The next stage consisted of India discovering the infiltration and mobilizing forces to respond to it. The final stage involved major battles by Indian and Pakistani forces, resulting in India recapturing most of the territories and pushing Pakistani forces back across the LOC. Despite initial setback, Lieutenant General Hari Mohan Khanna, GOC in C, Northern Command, showed exemplary calm in galvanizing forces for an effective counterattack named Operation Vijay. He was awarded Sarvottam Yuddha Seva Medal for leading the forces to a spectacular victory. Operation Safed Sagar, Kargil 1999. During the Kargil War, the Indian Air Force launched Operation Safed Sagar in support of the mobilization of the army on 26th May 1999. The government cleared limited use of air power with the faith that fighter jets were not to cross the LOC under any circumstance. This was the first time any war was fought at such high altitudes globally. The total air dominance of the IAF gave the forces on the ground adequate power for a real lethal counterattack. The air operations were led by Air Marshal Vinod Patnay, AOC in C, Western Air Command. In his words, Safed Sagar took the international community by surprise, as we managed to carry out successful mission for days at stretch in such a difficult terrain. Patnay was awarded Sarvottam Yuddha Seva Medal, having won the Veer Chakra during the 1965 war. Guns in Concert, Kargil 1999. Operation Vijay posed a challenge of a magnitude never faced by the Indian artillery in any of the previous wars. While young battery commanders fought shoulder to shoulder with the infantry, sustained and accurate shooting was done by the artillery guns. Shooting was so accurate that the infantry would at times call for artillery fire just 40 meters above them. The normal safety distances were much higher. Such was the value attached to direct artillery fire to keep the enemy's head down. A soft-spoken gunner, Lieutenant General Vinay Shankar, as Director General Artillery, masterminded the most devastating gunfire in world's military history. Kargil operation saw over 100 artillery guns firing in concert for days at a stretch and decimating each enemy target. Golden Arrows. As mentioned earlier, the Indian Air Force launched Operation Safed Sagar in support of the mobilization of land forces on 26th May 1999. This was the first time any air war was fought at such high altitudes globally. Wing Commander, later Air Chief Marshal Birender Singh Dhanwa, was commanding a frontline ground attack fighter squadron, Golden Arrows. Under his leadership, the squadron devised innovative methods of night bombing at high altitudes, which had never been attempted before. His squadron was adjudged the best fighter squadron of Headquarters Western Air Command. He was awarded Yuddha Seva Medal and Vayu Sena Medal for his gallant actions in this conflict. The squadron was disbanded in 2016 as MiGs were phased out to be resurrected in 2019 for induction of Rafale jets. Securing Srinagar 1999. During Kargil War, deployment of Marine Commandos of the Indian Navy in Jhelum River and Valour Lake closed the second route for the militants to reach Srinagar. Militants were forced to travel through the conventional mountain route, where they were effectively countered, thus securing the capital of Jammu and Kashmir. Lieutenant D.B. Singh from Indian Navy was attached to an army unit in Bandipur, which had effectively neutralized any enemy activity in the lake waters. Leading one such mission, soon after it was declared that Kargil operations had ended, Lieutenant D.B. Singh from Indian Navy met martyrdom when an IED exploded. He thus became the first Marine Commando to die in Kashmir defending the nation. Operation Black Tornado, Mumbai 2008. On 26 November 2008, 10 highly motivated, well-trained and heavily armed terrorists slipped past coastal security cordon and reached Mumbai. Over the next 3 days, the Fedayeen wreaked havoc, holding India's commercial capital hostage. The 26/11 attacks, as they are now known, is widely regarded as the world's first hybrid terrorist attack. The attack tested the mettle of India's elite counter-terrorist force, the National Security Guard. Black Tornado, as the operation was called by the NSG, saw NSG troops in continuous operations, going without sleep from the night of 26th November to the morning of 29th November. Then it was announced that the task of eliminating terrorists and securing the hostages has been completed. The man at the helm of the task was Major General Abhay Kumar Gupta, IG Operations, a Rimcollian. Operation Bandar, Balakot 2019. In the early morning hours of 26th February 2019, Indian planes crossed the LOC and dropped bombs in the town of Balakot in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province of Pakistan. The airstrike, codenamed Operation Bandar, was directed against a terrorist training camp and caused a death of a large number of terrorists. This punitive airstrike changed the security narrative. Having been a victim of the Pakistani deep state-sponsored terrorism for too long, India raised the cost for Islamabad with the punitive airstrike. A new normal also emerged, and India's political leadership realized that use of air power need not be escalatory, that there exists a large window for subconventional or limited war options between two nuclear powers. The airstrike was planned and supervised by AOC in C, Western Air Command, Air Marshal C. Harikumar. It's said that 100 years is a short time in an institution's history, but long enough to showcase its prowess and contribution to the building and securing of a nascent nation, several times paying the price of supreme sacrifice. The nation is secure as long as the gurus and chelas of the Gurukul, located close to where the Mahabharat princess trained at Guru Drona's ashram, continue to strive in the pursuit of Bal or Vivek, valor and wisdom.